Miliband.
Mr. Speaker, the government promised that there should be no rationing in the NHS on grounds of cost alone. Can the Prime Minister tell us whether he has kept that promise?
Well, the promise that we have kept is that we said we'd increase NHS spending every year under this government. And in Britain, in England, that is what is happening. In Wales, of course, there is a massive cut in the NHS because it's run by Labour.
Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker, there are 7,000 fewer nurses in the NHS than when he came to power in the figures published this morning. But I was asking him a very specific question about the promise made by the then Health Secretary. I know he sacked him, he's now the Leader of the House. He promised a year ago there'll be no rationing on the grounds of cost alone. And this is what the President of the Royal College of Ophthalmologists recently said. Well, I think you listened to the President of the Royal College of Ophthalmologists, actually. PCTs, he said this, PCTs are not following government guidelines. Half of health commissioners are restricting access to cataract surgery. I don't think you should ask for help from him. He got rid of him from the post. Can the Prime Minister tell me why, for the first time in 6 years, the number of cataract operations actually fell last year?
What I can tell him is that under this government, the number of doctors is up, the number of operations is up, waiting lists are down, waiting times are down. That is what's happening because we took the responsible decision. He quotes primary care trusts. Of course, we are abolishing primary care trusts and putting that money into frontline services. That is what's happening under this government. He believes that increasing spending on the NHS is irresponsible. We think it's the right thing to do.
Mr. Speaker, once again, he has no clue about the detail. He just has no idea what is actually happening out there on the ground. I mean, give him credit, Mr. Speaker, though, he did make history this week. He's got his very own word in the Oxford English Dictionary, omnishambles. And the reality is the reason why people are suffering on the ground is he's wasted billions of pounds on a top-down reorganisation of the NHS that nobody wanted and nobody voted for. Just like he wasted millions of pounds on police commissioner elections. He doesn't listen, he's out of touch, and last Thursday the people of Corby spoke for the country.
Last Thursday the people of Humberside spoke for the whole nation. There is more. Because, of course, the former Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, said this. This is not just about the police, he says. This is a referendum on everything this government's done. On health, on education, on the local authorities. And people took the first opportunity to kick him out. And on the subject of making history this week, I think the leader of the Labour Party made some history this week because he told his conference he wanted to be Disraeli. He told Radio 4 he wanted to be Margaret Thatcher. He came to this house and said on Europe he's more Eurosceptic than Bill Cash. And then he went to the CBI and he said he loved Europe even more than Tony Blair. He's impersonated more politicians than Rory Bremner, but this time the joke's on him.